Hey, it's me, Nalthazar, and welcome to another Magic the Gathering Puzzle Quest video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over a brand new blue-green Planeswalker, Kasmina Enigma Sage. So, let's get into it. To get things started, I wanted to give you all just a really quick explanation of where I've been the last few weeks. And then I wanted to go ahead and, of course, thank Octagon for sending me this Planeswalker so I could go ahead and make this video for you guys. Octagon, phenomenal design on this one. Thank you so much for sending it to me and your continued support. I very much appreciate you guys. Now, where have I been? Why haven't I gotten a video up lately? So I moved to a new house. So I stepped down from my job. I've become a stay-at-home dad. And then I moved to a new home within that week. And then I started doing the unpacking for that home. And I finally was able to save up enough from the channel and patrons. So thank you so much to my patrons to get a dedicated streaming and recording desktop computer. And so I built that with a friend. I built the computer and I've got it set up in a little nook in my house. And I spent a week from there figuring out software to be able to record Puzzle Quest and to be able to get all of my plugins correct because I'm going from Mac to PC. So I needed just all new stuff, not for the plugins, not for hardware, just for software. And so it took me some time to learn all of that. And then when I was finally able and ready to record with the new setup, it dawned on me that my recording time is when my kids are taking their bath and going to bed. And my nook is an open nook right next to the kids' room. So I can't record while they're in that space. And they're off for summer break right now. So basically, I can't record with my new setup until they're back in school in September, which means that I have now then taken down my setup and now I'm back to recording on my old setup until they're back in school a little bit, at which point I'll be able to start recording with the new setup. So just if you're wondering what all has been going on, why haven't I posted in like 2 weeks? This is the longest content drought of my channel. That's what's been going on. I thought that I'd be able to start producing videos at a little bit higher quality and a little bit faster because the render time is just insanely fast on the new computer. Get up some streaming, but it's just been a little bit of difficulty with the move and the schedule and transitioning to being a stay-at-home dad and all that stuff. So I have a lot of footage recorded for you guys. I have like tens of hours of footage recorded that I want to be able to share with you guys. So hopefully I'll be able to get that up right and soon. Now, Kasmina. Let's talk Kasmina. Kasmina is currently in the vault. I know I'm making this with 4 days, 3 hours left, which really doesn't give you a lot of time to pick her up for money, but it will give you plenty of time to pick her up for crystals if you haven't picked her up for cash. If you buy the bundle, you are going to get 50 mana crystals, 120 mana jewels. You're going to get 25,000 mana runes. You're going to pick up Kasmina, and you're going to get 3 of these Quandrix booster packs. These Quandrix booster packs, by the way, are very good packs. They have a phenomenal chance of getting mythics and masterpieces and rares. So if you really don't have a lot of the set, then the Strixhaven set, then this is a phenomenal bundle, even just to pick up for the Planeswalker and these little Quandrix bundles. So I actually really like what they've done with the Planeswalkers for this set in adding these like special boosters, just because the price of the Planeswalker hasn't changed, but what you're getting has increased. So that's really nice. Now, Kasmina, then I'm going to be going ahead and showing off Kasmina at level 60 because she's another walker that I think performs much better at level 60, or if you will, at I want to say like 51 or so when all of her abilities hit rank 4 than she does at lower levels. You really benefit from her being at max level. So Kasmina's first ability is called Living Sum. It's going to create a fractal token. That token's going to have 2 shields, and it's going to make it so that when your first creature attacks in combat, or at the beginning of combat, I should say, your first creature is going to get a power toughness buff equal to the level of that fractal. The support itself, the fractal support, has resilient, so when that support gets matched, it's actually going to get reinforced. So basically gains shields every time it gets matched for the first time on your turn, and it means that support destruction is needed to destroy it. It will not get destroyed from green cascades or match, or really any color, but let's face it, she's green, you're probably going to be playing green gem conversion in some kind of deck with her. So you use the first ability, you get the fractal token, and then you're going to pick and fetch one of the first 4 cards from your library. It's going to gain X mana, where X is equal to the highest shield among supports you control. Now, the minimum for X is going to be 2, because when you use the first ability, you are going to get a fractal token. However, when you play Kasmina enough, if you play her with some of the newer cards with fractal, or even if you play her with some of the older cards, you're going to wind up finding that you're going to have supports that have very high shield counts, especially in conjunction with her third ability. And so I've found that in a lot of my games, I've got a support with 20 plus shields down, and so her first ability effectively just becomes fetch one of the first 4 cards of your library and give it full mana. And at 6 loyalty, that's absolutely insane. Her first ability is definitely one of the best first abilities in the game. Hands down. Very good. Her second ability, Mentor's Guidance, is going to create an Unsolved Enigma token. That Unsolved Enigma token is going to have 6 shields. It's going to have Learn, and then the Learn is going to be based on Adamant. So Adamant red and white, meaning you need to make both a red and a white match in a turn to get the Learn Lorehold. Adamant blue-red, so you need to make a blue and a red match in a turn. Match, not swap, match. To get the Learn Prismari, blue and green to learn Quandrix, black and white to learn Silverquill, and black and green to learn Witherbloom. Then, after you've got the Unsolved Enigma token down, then copy the first spell card in your hand and give that copy full mana. Then convert all gems on the board to a random color. So there's really a lot to unpack with Mentor's Guidance, but the Unsolved Enigma token providing you with Learn is going to give you a card from each of the schools. You get to learn and pick from 4 cards. All right, so the Unsolved Enigma, when you actually get the Adamant, you get to pick from 4 cards. The first of the cards is going to be specifically from the school. And so for Witherbloom, you're going to get to pick either the Pest or I'm forgetting the other Witherbloom card off the top of my head, but you're going to pick from one of the black-green ones. Then you get another choice that is going to be based on the color. So you'll get just any, for Witherbloom, any green or black, right? It's going to be randomized. And then 2 of the colorless options. And there are many colorless Learn options. And so the choices that you're going to get actually wind up being fairly random from the Adamant choices. To give you an idea, they're all lessons. And so you basically get a random selection from these lessons. However, for the Lorehold, there's a very high chance you're going to get Spirit Summoning because this is red-white and is one of the Lorehold ones. Getting Elemental Summoning, for example, you've got a very high chance of picking that up from Prismari. Whereas you could wind up getting Confront the Past from Witherbloom, which is green-black. You could wind up getting Confront the Past from Silverquill, which is black-white, right? Because both of those have black in their colors. Yeah, so what you can wind up picking up is really any of these cards here, with the exception of Kasmina. You can't pick up the Kasmina Vanguard. However, I have been able to pick up all of these other ones. And what makes this ability so incredibly good is that you'll find that when you use it, you're fairly often going to be able to pick up Containment Breach, which is going to be support removal. And then you're also going to fairly often have the option to pick up Introduction to Annihilation, which is going to serve as creature exile and can also exile your opponent's non-land supports. And so what Kasmina is able to do with her second ability is not only is she able to provide you with an incredible amount of gem conversion and then free spells, but you're also going to wind up getting yourself a bunch of free removal. And you might be thinking to yourself, but Adamant is really hard to trigger because you need to match 2 separate colors in order to make that happen. However, I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now that about half, maybe more than half the times that I've used Mentor's Guidance, I have made a match of all 5 colors when all of the gems have gotten converted. And then I wind up getting a whole bunch of mana, and so most of the time it's wound up filling a few, if not all of them, to full mana on use. So It's a really powerful ability. You get a ton of mana out of it. You get a copy and full mana in a spell. And now you've got a support on the battlefield that gives you access to consistent removal. This ability is a top tier ability. It's one of the best second abilities in the game. And so we've got one of the best first abilities in the game with Living Sum, and we've got one of the best second abilities with Mentor's Guidance. Her third ability, Knowledge Edition, is going to have you draw 3 cards, then increase your non-spell cards level by X. And so basically what that means is right now we really don't have very many things that are going to increase level. We really have, I want to say, 2 cards. There's fractals that gain levels, and then there is the slime thing. It's a masterpiece. It's the other side of the vampire that starts out with like 10 shields and then can level up. But really, those are the only 2 cards right now that increase in level. That said, I imagine that we'll see more things as we go that will increase in level, and Knowledge Edition will add to that. Pun intended. So you're going to draw 3 cards, then increase your non-spell cards level by X, and then your creatures get a permanent plus X buff, and your supports are going to gain X shield. X for all of those is going to be the number of cards in your hand. So the minimum number of cards in your hand, so the minimum increase to level and creature power toughness and support shield is going to be 3 because you're going to draw 3 cards from using Knowledge Edition with a maximum of 6. Now, the third ability, Knowledge Edition, is fairly subpar compared to the other 2. I find that there's very rarely a reason that I'd want to use Knowledge Edition over Living Sum, because Living Sum is going to give me 1 card compared to 3. However, the 1 card that I would gain from Living Sum is probably going to get full mana. There were times that I did find myself using Knowledge Edition, but that's also because I was running Kasmina with both Urza, who definitely benefits from increasing the shields of his token, and then also from Eryximethus, the new masterpiece land that when it reaches 20 shields is going to give your first creature +12/+12 in Defender. So having that increase to my support's shields wound up being significantly more beneficial than it would have been in another deck. And I know that I have a lot of masterpieces, and so this is why I'm saying for most players, Knowledge Edition is really not that great of an ability compared to the other 2. But that said, it's still a phenomenal ability that rounds out her other 2 abilities, because Knowledge Edition is going to make it so that Unsolved Enigma is going to stay on the board for longer, and it's also going to level up your fractal that you would be making with your first ability. I found a number of games where I was using all 3 of her abilities. Some games I just relied on her first, some games I just relied on her second, and some games I just relied on her third. So she's a phenomenal Planeswalker for her abilities. Her mana bonuses are going to be +5 in both blue and green. She's going to have +2 to red, and then -2 to both black and white. This makes her mana gains the best of any blue-green Planeswalker in the game, and I would actually argue that this actually makes her mana gains the best of any green Planeswalker in the game, because she has the highest green mana bonus of any Planeswalker in the game. She's actually tied with Vivian with the +5. I want to say that Tyvar Kell also has +5, is +5/+5 to green and black. I might be wrong on that. If I am, please tell me. But Kasmina has the highest single green mana bonus in the game. And so that is a huge pro in her favor because we have so much green conversion between supports and also spells. But then she's also got that +5 in blue. And what this means is that you're going to be able to gain mana like nobody's business using this Planeswalker. It opens up what you can throw into your deck for gem conversion, both from the green side and the blue side, because if you just have green converters, then you can just run those green converters. Everyone's got Nissa's Pilgrimage, which is phenomenal. And just with those new land cycles that we've been getting, it really makes Kasmina a very consistent Planeswalker to use for filling up your hand with mana, and then for using her abilities and getting the cards you need when you need them, and then finally also being able to respond to whatever it is that your opponent is doing, because you're going to get more of whatever it is that you have between Living Sum and Knowledge Edition, and then being able to play them with your mana bonuses, and then you're going to just get a bunch of removal with Mentor's Guidance. So the Unsolved Enigma token comes in way more handy than I thought it would be. Now I want to go ahead and get into some gameplay with Kasmina. I've got both a Pauper Plus build, I want to say, and then I've got my Mythic Masterpiece heavy build that is running Urza, Avatar of Growth, and Eryximethus. But that said, I've used Kasmina more than any Planeswalker in the last, I would say like week and a half or 2. and she's phenomenal. I'll get into more of her in my conclusion, but she's definitely a top 5 Planeswalker in the game right now. So let's go ahead and get into the gameplay to back up a little bit of what I'm saying, and so you can see her in action. So as you can see, this is my Pauper Plus build, and I'm going based on the new fractal mechanic. So I've got things like Cayenne, Manifestation Sage, Biomathematician, Fractal Summoning, Leyline Invocation, Serpentine Curve, Field Trip. All of these are going to go ahead and give me fractals. And so you'll wind up seeing that by gaining all of these fractals, I'm able to boost the power of Cayenne a lot. And you'll also get to see all Kasmina's abilities really coming in handy this game, as I'm up against a fairly scary Planeswalker in Garruk. Now, the Serpentine Curve actually needs to have spells in my graveyard, so I'm actually holding off here. And so the idea with this deck, if you're able to build it when you pick up Kasmina, is really just to rely on the fractal ability, and then to use her first ability to fetch cards, and then also, beyond just fetching cards, to also try and get yourself a higher level fractal. Now, as you can see, I'm actually up against a pretty decent deck. My opponent getting an 11-13 Vigilant First Strike really would have been the end of me here if I didn't have Mortality Spear, but fortunately for me, I did have Mortality Spear, and I'm also playing with Kasmina. Now, I've got all 3 of her abilities ready. I can use any which one I want, if I want to. And so here I'm just checking Cayenne. I'm making sure that it's based on loyalty, that you get a bonus or a benefit. And so at this stage, I really can go any which way. I could use Living Sum, which is what I am going to do to fetch something. In doing so, I've got a support with 10 mana, so that means I'm already fetching and giving 10 mana. And then for that card that I just gained, the Ecological Appreciation, I actually want to go ahead and get the new enhanced mechanic going on it, because if you enhance it, you actually get to use it twice, and in using it twice, I could go ahead and get my fractals even higher. That said, I've already got a 16/16 on the battlefield, which is great, and at this stage, I'm really just hoping that Garruk doesn't get a wild Cascade and then drop something absolutely terrifying. Getting Field Trip here is definitely a pretty sweet boost. I'm going to go ahead and use my 3rd ability here, and so you'll see that little flashy animation, but it's also going to be leveling up and powering up all of my supports. So you'll see that my fractal is already at 19 shields. It was really easy to get it there at 19 shields, which means that anytime I use my first ability now, I'm going to be getting more than 19 mana, because I'm going to wind up getting these Biomathematicians. They're going to be leveling that up quite a bit. I'm going to be able to take Fractal Summoning from Field Trip, because that's one of your lesson options from the Learn. I'm going to be going ahead and just taking more of those Fractal Summonings, more of those Biomathematicians, which are just going to keep powering up my Fractal. And I've got that Fractal at 39 shield, which means that I can just use it freely with my first ability to fetch any card I want in the game for free. Except for, I guess, Hogak, because Hogak doesn't gain mana, but whatever. Hogak don't matter. So at this stage, I've got a pretty winning game board, right? I mean, I think that I will be able to kill my opponent with the Cayenne from the fractals anyways. That said, I do actually want to go ahead and use my ability. So I'm going to use my 3rd again just to boost everything up. And then in boosting them all up, that's just going to give me a pretty big power toughness boost. And so here you're seeing that this is a match where I am indeed using my 3rd ability quite a bit. There are, as I said, a bunch of matches where I will wind up doing that. I've got my fractals at 47 shields, which is just absolutely ridiculous. And then I can really just do whatever I want. My opponent's not going to be able to survive this. So I'm going to use Mortality Spear. That's going to go ahead and get rid of the Vigilant creature. I'm going to go ahead and raise my fractals up again, and then that's it. That's game. So that is a showcase of Kasmina with Pauper Plus. Still very powerful. Let's go ahead and take a look at her with some of those Mythics and Masterpieces, a more refined deck. Alrighty, so this match is going to be showcasing the Mythics and Masterpieces, and the idea of this deck, if you're taking a look at it here, is to play off of Urza and Eryxthmithis. Woof, my goodness. That said, I'm really not playing off of the fractal mechanic as much with this deck. Body of Research is the only card that's going to be producing fractals in this deck, but that's really all that you need. Now, this particular gameplay segment right here is going to really highlight Kasmina's second ability. So in the Pauper Plus, you guys got to see, I think, a really good showcase of her third ability. In this one, we're going to be taking a look at her second ability and really seeing what it's like to be able to get a whole bunch of lessons. Now, the idea with this deck is to get as much gem conversion going as you can to level up your Eryxthmithis, and man, that is way harder to say than I thought it was. It's way better than that new card from Modern Horizons 2 that I'm just not even going to bother trying because it has like 40 letters in it. It's absolutely ridiculous. But whatever. Anyways, my opponent gets Velomachus down. That's really about the last thing that I want to see because Velomachus is, in my opinion, the best card in Standard right now. If you want to contradict that, I would love to hear why you don't think it is. But in my opinion, it definitely is. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to use Kasmina's second ability here. You're going to see it, boom, pop the board. I get a whole bunch of matches. And I actually am going to have every single color this turn, which means that I will be able to learn from every single school. And the really cool thing about how the learn works for this is it's at end of turn. So even though I have a pretty full hand right now, I'm still just going to go ahead and be able to refill it at end of turn from all the cards that I'm going to be able to learn. So I do want to make a horizontal match. I want that horizontal match so that I can get the land forming from my turn timber. I've already got the Eryxthmithis down. Wow, that is just butchering me tonight. Sleep deprivation. It's not a good thing, kids. Don't do it. Anywho, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to pick some Urzas here. Wind up getting Urza's support. I'm going to go ahead and play the body of Research, which really doesn't boost me up too large. But nonetheless, here you'll see that I've got Illuminate History. This is my Lorehold card. I've got Spirit Summoning, which is, I believe, my red card. And then I've got, or it could wind up being vice versa there, right? Elemental Summoning is my Prismari card. Mercurial Transformation is my blue card. And then the two bottom ones are my colorless cards. So here, Containment Breach is one of my blue cards. I'm just going ahead and pulling through. You'll see that I did take support removal out of this. I'm going to take Fetch from the Introduction Prophecy, and then over here I'm going to take Introduction to Annihilation over here. And for black-green, you'll see on the top, Pest Summoning is my black-green card. The green one was the support removal. By the way, big shout out to Bongo the Grey for pointing that out to me. Thank you for saving me tens of hours of testing and telling me how that one works, so that you get that one card from your school, one card from your color, and two of the colorless cards at random. So here you'll see I've got a whole hand full of removal. Look at this nonsense. I've got the Environmental Sciences, which is going to help me with Fetch, Introduction to Prophecy, which is going to help me Fetch, and of course the Introduction to Annihilation, which is going to get rid of Velomachus. Praise the goodness, because we do not want Velomachus on the battlefield at all. I'm going to go ahead and toss the extra things because I'm a foolish Nelly, but also because I wanted to draw 3 and showcase the third ability here. And that is going to go ahead and level up Urza's land. It's also going to level up my Fractal, which I've already got down, and it's going to level up Eryxthmithis. Ooh, there we go. It only took 42 tries. Whatever, it's still the answer to life, the universe, and everything. So, or the meaning, whatever. We get the picture. Anywho, Tybalt does not get the picture because Tybalt's about to get completely wrecked here this turn, and he's got one other turn left in his poor body, but whatever, that's okay. We forgive Tybalt. Nonetheless, you'll see that because of my second ability, I'm still fetching cards, or taking lessons, which is pretty sweet. It's just giving me constant access to removal, which is great. And then really once you use that second ability, you've got just such massive control. You wind up being able to beat even the strongest of opponents who have the best of cards at their disposal, and those few times that Greg decides to play really well, it's able to combat that too. So this is good in all situations. Nonetheless, over here I'm going to be able to drop Tybalt. There's really nothing that Tybalt can do. Could have used my third ability, but no point in drawing this out. Might as well just end his suffering here and call it a day. So 73 to the face on 14. And that is my gameplay with Kasmina. So let's go ahead and get into the conclusion. I know this one's getting a bit long. In conclusion, Kasmina Enigma Sage is without a doubt an S-tier Planeswalker. I think she's the best green-blue Planeswalker in the game. I happen to think that green-blue is probably the best color combination in the game. So it makes her one of the best Planeswalkers in the game. I think that Kasmina is better than Brokon right now in Standard. I think that Kasmina is better than Tamiyo right now in Standard. I know that Kasmina is better than Kiora right now in Standard, or Oko, or any of the other options that we would have that are like her. The only option that you have that could be blue-green that is able to perform some roles better is Karn, but Karn is colorless and so is able to be sort of a jack-of-all-trades Planeswalker. That said, Kasmina is 100% worth the investment, either picking her up for the $29.99 or just waiting for her to come out for mana crystals at $650. She is good for all players. Her abilities are good for anyone, regardless of what you have. The removal that you're going to be getting from her second ability, the mana gains, the card draw and mana that you're going to be getting from her first ability, and then if you have things that can abuse shields with supports, her third ability, all of them combined give you one of the most complete packages for a Planeswalker in Puzzle Quest. So yes, I do think Kasmina is worth it. Yes, she is absolutely an S-tier Planeswalker. Yes, you should have her in your collection. So let me know what you guys come up with for her for your decks. I love seeing the decks that you guys wind up sending to me and trying some of them out myself. Sometimes you guys show me some things I didn't think of, and I always love seeing that. So thank you all so much for your continued support and watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one.